Hello, welcome to Pod Popper's Place. I'm Penny, and today I wanted to share with you some cards that I created with these small stamps and die set from Colorado Craft Company. The first one I made was kind of cool, and I thought I would share it with you. So I've been working really hard making lots of cards, and I have lots and lots of these scraps left over, and I just hate to throw them away. And maybe you have piles of scraps too that you're not really sure what to do with. I colored and cut out two of the stamp with this little mouse and little sugar cubes, and I think they're just super cute, and I love how the dies cut those out nice and neat. And then I'm getting out a double-sided adhesive sheet, and I'm adding that to just a basic white layering cardstock. This is not heavy duty, it's not for Copic coloring or anything, it's just a basic thin layering sheet. And I'm going to cut down some of these strips that I have, because some of them are more wide and some of them aren't as wide, and I just want some random sizes of different strips of paper. And after I get those cut out, and I've been having such trouble with my cutting tools. I have several, and none of them seem to cut the really skinny strips very well. So I do have some of them that aren't really actually very straight, but you don't really notice that when you layer them like this. And I don't have a lot of them that are super long, so that's kind of my struggle first here, is trying to get some longer pieces to go completely across the sheet. I'm just trying to that some of them have double-sided, and so that helps. I can flip them over and use whichever side I want. And I'm trying to mix and match and just kind of do a random layout of all the different pieces. And I do end up having to go and cut some more. I didn't have quite enough strips that were long enough to completely finish, and plus I was getting to the point where a lot of them were the same, and I didn't want to have ones that were too similar close to each other. So I do go and cut a few more of the different colors that are more piles that are laying around, just of bigger pieces. And so I can kind of finish off the second half of the page. And the last piece I add on there was actually part of a ribbon, but it matched what I was doing. So these are some of the bigger pieces that I ended up cutting. And I still didn't have a lot that were really going to fit completely across the sheet, but that's okay, because I don't really need the entire sheet. If you were doing a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 background, or something similar with the whole thing is going to be a background, then of course you would want to have longer strips to go across that middle section. But because my plan is a little bit different, it's okay that I'm just putting some really small ones in there and then just kind of filling in where I needed it to be. Please excuse my voice. I've been sick a lot this year. It's just been off and on, and actually the school I work at shut down so that everybody could try and get well, because we just had so many illnesses, and it's just been an ongoing thing. So I hope you and your family have been well, but if you haven't, know that you are not alone. So my idea here is to use this little piece to put a background on the back side of it. So I want to cut a square that's going to go on the inside of that, and then I'm going to cut another piece out of the top, just that I can fit in there. So as you can see, I'm putting in some extra random pieces, because you're really not going to notice that it's going the wrong direction. It's pretty much going to be covered up by that bright magenta sparkle piece, and that comes from a Pink and Main set that Kendra from Kendra's Card Challenges created. And I had cut out, I wanted the center portion of that little medallion, and so I had this leftover piece, and so I wanted to use that today. And so I'm using some cat scrappiness squares to just cut out the two different sizes that I can get out of there, one being the one that I needed specifically for that other piece to go on top of. And it didn't quite cut through completely because it is so thick. I should have ran it a couple more times, but it was cut enough that I could just trim it with my scissors to get the rest of the way out. And I just love this patchwork look. It's just kind of fun and eclectic, and uses a lot of those scraps, and has lots of colors to work with. And so my little corner there that I kind of had some weird pieces laying on, you can see when I put that on there, you won't even notice. So this is one of the techniques that I wanted to show you today and why my video is so long. This is just a dollar store glass trivet, but it has a kind of a patterny finish on the top, and then it's smooth on the bottom. And so I'm just squishing some ink on there, and I'm going to take some more of those just lightweight layering pieces of white cardstock, and I'm just going to see what kind of design I can get off there. And it kind of creates this like splattered background, and it's not perfect or anything, but it's kind of interesting and different. And so I use my brayer to really get that on there as best I can, and I'm using some tweezers to try and keep my fingers somewhat clean. You could also wear some plastic gloves or something like that if you wanted to not get too messy, but crafting gets messy. What kind of crafter are you if you don't get a little bit messy? So now I added some different color ink. I have two different pinks there, and so I'm just add a little bit, and then I'm from a re-inker, and then put some water on there. So this is kind of like, ink smushing with alcohol inks, but this is just on regular paper with regular water-based ink on this glass mat. And I know right now it looks like a murder scene, so I apologize for that. But it is pink, and it will dry much more pink than it looks right now. And so I just kind of keep adding water to that and adding more papers and seeing, what kind of look I can get. Some of them are more inky than others, but I just wanted to get some different backgrounds. And my purpose for this really is that when I made the blue card was that I wanted the color that I was using to be represented, but I didn't want a really opaque color, and the cardstock I had is really opaque. So here I'm using two different cardstocks. I have a Copic friendly stamping paper. So this is heavier duty than my layering paper, and it's actually meant for Copic coloring. And I wanted to do this because I want to perhaps stamp on this one and see if I could do any Copic coloring, even with that water-based background. But because it's ink friendly, maybe I can still stamp on there and still do some coloring. Where the layering paper is not necessarily Copic friendly, it would probably bleed quite a bit. So here I'm just taking my brayer and getting the excess ink. I'm actually using the front. I'm gonna get whatever ink I can onto the front of it, and rather than the back this time, because I've used up most of what's on the bottom, and so I'm just going to try and get some of that inky goodness off the top and use my brayer to go over the top of it, and it kind of gives it this interesting pattern and look to it. As you can see, a lot of it starts to curl up. So my solution for trying to get it as flat as possible is I do stack them together, and I can't promise that they won't stick together, but my first run of this did not. And so I lay them together, and then I put them under my glass mat, and I just leave them there to dry. So I'm going to work with the first one that I did because it's not wet. It just has that kind of splattery look on it. And I've taken a masking sheet, and I've cut this little die cut out of it that just has these little diamond patterns on it, and I've cut a bunch out, and I'm creating basically a stencil. So you can use any dies that you have and kind of create your own stencil using some masking paper. I just used this like 3 or 4 times, I think 4 times to get this pattern on there. And I'm using this yellow lunar paste and just going over the top of it. And, last time I used my silver, but I thought, it'd be fun to use this yellow because it's really, really bright. And, I don't really have a lot of opportunities to use it. So I thought, well, let's try the yellow and see what that looks like. And I think it looks, pretty cool. It's very shiny, and yellow and this pink magenta thing goes together pretty well. But I'm not 100% thrilled with it, so I am going to do more to that later. But I didn't want to waste this mask or this stencil, so I'm going to put down another piece of my layering cardstock, and I'm going to press this out. It's actually quite dry now. I know it looks wet, but I'm actually really not getting much of the yellow on there because it actually dried really, really fast. So I decided to get some purple out and do some inking first because I wanted to see, well, let me do some kind of ombre purple. So I'm trying to do heavy at the bottom and then I get a little bit lighter at the top. And I was like, well, let me put the yellow on top of this and kind of see what we get. Kind of what I thought was that you would see the purple through the yellow. That was my thinking here. But that's not what happened. And actually what happened actually turns out to be pretty cool. And I probably would have gotten more see-through yellow if I had let the ink dry, but I didn't. And now it looks like it's a hot mess, right? It looks like it's turning brown and it's just like, ugh, gross. I am not putting any of my lunar paste back into my jar. It will completely mess it up, where the first time I did. But when I peel this off, look, you guys, it looks like this very rich, beautiful gold. It changed that bright yellow into this beautiful gold. So I was really actually quite excited about that. So my previous sketch, I used this background, I don't know, what do you even call it? Press plate? It's not a press plate. Background, it's a die, but it doesn't cut anything out. Anyway, I used that. And so I didn't want to do the same thing, but I wasn't quite happy with my background. So I decided, okay, I'm going to add more splatter and just make it more interesting. And then I added so I added pink and purple, and it was still kind of, So I looked at my colors on my little square, and I was like, okay, well, let me add some blue. And I really think the blue did it. Like, I really like the spots of blue. I think it really created a great background. So I was happy with that. And I trimmed it down a little bit, and then I'm going to add it to the same color glitter paper, but I'm going to cut out the center because, it's glitter paper, so we don't want to hide it behind the paper. So I just cut a frame out of the back of it, and so to use later, and now I'm ready to glue my pieces together. And it did actually get cut slightly smaller than an A2 size card, so I will have some white showing around my edges, but whatever, it's a homemade card, that's okay. And I'm just gonna glue the mouse straight down. I'm not gonna pop anything up on him, but I decided I want my sugar cubes to be more three-dimensional. So, they're tiny, right? They're little teeny tiny things. We're not gonna put foam tape on that. So we're gonna use our die, and we're gonna cut out, several more of the cubes out of some scrap paper, and we're going to glue those together, and then that's going to give us our dimension and make the sugar cubes pop out a little bit. So super cute. I completely missed mentioning that I used an embossing folder earlier on my panel, but hopefully you caught that. So instead of using the other die background plate, I used an embossing folder. So still wanted to give it some texture because I love the texture. So yeah, I'm getting my little ice cubes down. Sugar cubes. They're sugar cubes. But they could be ice cubes, I suppose, but no, they're sugar cubes. And I use my weight a lot to hold things down when they're wet with glue because otherwise they don't always stick. So anyway, you can see I got a little white around the edges because, I had to trim it down. Was not getting it cut straight properly for some reason. But I think it's fine. And I'm using double stick adhesive tape here, but because of the glitter glue or glitter, sorry, words are hard this morning, people. So I used double stick tape, and I really should have added some liquid glue to that because it does pop up a little bit on the edge, and I do actually have to go back and add some liquid glue. So my recommendation for glitter paper, use both if you have it. So I did pop up my little square. I thought it would be okay to do that, even though the sugar cubes, not salt, not ice. Anyway, and then I put my little sentiments down. This is a Feeling Better card, and I wasn't sure I was going to do that, but I really like how it came together. And here's that second background, all dried now, and actually I really quite love it. Kind of funny, did not intend to do that. And then this is the first card I made, and you can kind of see the differences, how they're similar. I did make the paper backgrounds just like the the one that I did today, just in blue. And then I now have another extra little square to do something fun with. I don't think I will use it with that diamond paper though. I'll probably use it with one of my pink, not red blood splatter ones. So thank you for coming. I hope you will come back again really soon, and please subscribe if you have not already done so. Bye-bye.